Okay, so first and foremost, obviously log in, and you can go to your dashboard. I have all these windows open. I just came in here and right click. I opened up the media tab in a new tab. So I opened up, this is basically for when you want to work on stuff. I would definitely recommend doing this. I opened up the media library in a tab. I opened up the pages in a tab, and this actually happens to be showing if it clicks. Why would it not click? There it goes. It's actually editing the test page, but so we'll just open up the pages page in a tab under the dashboard. Then I went ahead and opened up a couple versions of the Revolution Slider in the different tabs. This one I went in, and this is the actual, this is the homepage final that you created. And then I opened it up again. So it's good to have a bunch of these things open, right? So pages, media library, Revolution Slider, the actual slider you're working on, and the home page itself, or whatever page you're messing around with. Maybe we're messing around with, say, a slider under Apache Hadoop development, and those aren't supposed to open in new tabs, but that's okay, it just did. So this is a slider, right? So if we're messing around in these areas, we should definitely have that page open, so we can just come in here whenever we make a change, refresh it real quick, make sure our change works, and we're happy. So I'm just going to close that page. So here we have the dashboard. Again, just open in a new tab, open in a new tab, so forth and so on. Media library. The reason why we keep the media library in is we could just upload a whole bunch of images and realize, oh wait, I just uploaded the wrong images. I need to go in and I need to delete what I just did. Whoops, bulk action apply of nothing. Those images are still there. The only bulk actions there are, unless we start adding actions, is delete permanently. It does delete it permanently. Although, given the right amount of time, I could take it back and put it back in, but we're not going to do that. Alright, so the pages, the reason why we had pages open, and this is where we're going to have some fun and answer your first question. Well, the question you had last night. So I had that test page. Where's that test page? Right here, parent about us was the one I was in. I just knew that for a fact. It doesn't really matter. So all I did was H1 slider test in a page, right? So if we go over to that Revolution slider, actually, let's move this tab over. This is the one you were working on. Notice that it has slider alias. So that's the slider alias. This alias will be used for embedding the slider, example, slider 1. So, alright, so I went and copied that out. So, slider shortcode. Interesting. It automatically selects it. Rev slider, homepage final. And I went into this test page, and all I did was put that in right there. Right underneath I added H1 tags to it so we could see slider test in a page really nice and big. So update it. Now this page isn't actually linked to anything. It does have a parent page, but it's not linked to anything. I would never recommend that whenever you're seeing a preview changes button, don't click it. Usually there's a view page or it shows you the permalink, right? So the about us /test, that's the permalink. And we need to clean these things up, but let's see what we got. Alright, so wait a second, that's not it. Interesting. It's actually in the home page. It's actually in the test page. So right underneath slider in a test page is another slider, not just this one. So let's go back to answer your original question, which is how do I get this slider into my page? So we'll go back to the page, right? So this is putting it within the HTML within that page that is posted to the overall framework. But how do you get it into the overall framework as that nice large one? Well, we're going to use the same one. Notice home page final, home _ page _ final. Right here on the right in the sidebar on any page that you're in, page slider. We could use a flex slider, which don't worry about it, but we're using the Revolution slider. And right now I have it set as test, and that shows all the different captions that are there. But down here at the bottom is the one that you made, home page final. Okay, so I go ahead and update that. I could hit preview changes, but I'm not going to. I'm going to actually view the page through the permalink. And now instead of seeing all those different things, you're seeing this guy come in. And it doesn't seem to be looking like it's supposed to. This is probably because we have two of the same sliders, one in the top and one in the bottom. But let's see what happens here. Does it do the same error? No. So let's see if we go back. Interesting. So that's a bug to be looked at. Probably not the best idea to have. Let's see, now it's displaying correctly. But notice now down here at the bottom, that's just displaying completely crazily. So let's go through that. Let's try and figure that one out. Let's go back into the page. Let's come over to these sliders. This is why we have so many tabs open. So I'm going to do a different slider in the bottom there. I'm going to do homepage V3. And I'm going to take that short code. I'm going to go back to the edit page, and I'm going to replace the home page slider with slider home V3. I'm going to update it so we still have down here the actual home page final slider that you created, and in here we have the last version that I did. So we've got two different sliders in a page. Let's see if they conflict with each other. It's quite possible that they do. Yeah, they still conflict with each other. Well, we'll have to look into that. So probably not best to put sliders within the page itself. Let the oh, see, there it works. How about here? We're going to get into that background image in a second. One more time. Let's go ahead and open up both of them. Yeah, see this bottom slider? They tend to conflict with each other. One other reason is that it's probably not liking the fact that, see how it's all kind of squashed in things? It's probably not liking the fact that we have, see, this one is actually supposed to be as big as the top guy, so it's probably really not liking that. No big deal, doesn't matter. So that's step one in making sure that any given page displays its slider. It's not by putting the code, the short code in, it's by using the sidebar here and actually selecting it out of the list. And obviously a bunch of these need to be weeded out. They're just tests and stuff. So we'll stop there. Okay, so now we're going to go into Photoshop and we're going to start playing with sliders. I know I've done some of this before in another tutorial. Let's never watch that again. Delete it from your hard drive if you ever downloaded it. And let's go with this, because I've really simplified this for everyone, India as well as yourself. So here we are in Photoshop. You may not have known that this was possible, but it's a new thing in Photoshop. So I have 3 Photoshop files open, and I want to drag things between them, right? Well, you can actually have, so I take that tab of this guy, and I just drag it to the bottom. Eventually I see a little blue bar, and now I can see this Photoshop file and that Photoshop file all at the same time. Alright, but let's just focus on this one for right now. So I'm using shortcut keys. I'll get in, I'm just effing into a full view. Command 1 to make sure that it's the right size. I'm going to go ahead into view, make sure that I don't show my guides, because I want to show you what this Photoshop file is, and all of this will be linked above this video. I'll zip up all of these Photoshop files for you. So I'm going to hit the C key for crop, and under crop you're normally used to seeing just a crop tool, right? Well, within the crop tool is also slice tools and select slice tools. So I've created slices. Each one of these has its own slice, and it is exactly the size that I went into the PHP, it's exactly the size that this is, which is, in these guys' cases, 284 pixels wide by 110 pixels tall. Is that right? Or no, those are, well, let's check. These guys are 315 pixels wide by 180 pixels tall. I named all of the slices, so when it outputs and gave them alt tags and message tags, so when it outputs the files, all that gets taken in with it. These are the ones that are 284 pixels wide by 110 pixels tall. So each one of these is named Gallery Business Series, Gallery Solution Series, Technology, Gallery Technology Series, Apache, Hive, and Pig, or whatever, underscores. So what we're going to do in this instance is go to Save for Web. And I also set this up so when you open this up and you try and save for web, by default it's going to save it as a PNG 24, so you don't have to worry about that. You can save each individual slice. This might be hard to see in the video, but when I select each one of these areas, it kind of lights up a little bit while the others stay back and unlit. Or I can select in the corner, drag all the way down, and select everything at once. Okay, and this is in the Save for Web dialog. So if I hit save, it doesn't really matter what I save it as, but I'll go ahead and save it into just a new untitled folder. So when I go over to that folder, desktop, where are you? Untitled folder, that's the one I just created. And I think I just crashed my Finder. Untitled folder under images. Each one's appropriately named because I went ahead in advance and did that. There's no point in saving them out as JPEGs really. The only thing to note here is, yes, it has all of our previously named ones. Because when I was in the Save for Web dialog and I selected everything, all of these little itty bitty pieces that are between each slice are also getting saved out. So we have a bunch of stuff called like gallery sprites. Well, if you recall, when I did the save, it gave the name gallery sprites. That's because it's the name of the file. So all of those are useless. You can see they're like 1K PNGs. So we take them all and we do File under T for trash, and this is every single sprite for galleries, not just not just those guys, but also these technology buttons that go in there. They're all set to always save out at exactly the size they're supposed to be. So you could, if you wanted to, go into the media library and edit Pentaho, one at a time, and move those in. Or what would be probably a better idea is to go into something like, I use CyberDuck, but use your FTP client, go into the server, find the images folder, just directly overwrite them. But that's not something that I think you should have to worry about, and considering the amount of time it takes is less than 5 minutes, whenever you do decide to, say, add a different class under technology or change the way it's spelled or any of that, just do it within this file. As I always said, keep a master of this. You'll have the zip file, right? So when you unzip it, just make sure you don't delete the zip file, because that way, in the future, you can always come back here and say jumping start, right? Make that change. You can go in, you can save for web. See the shortcut key for you is, well, for me it's Command Option Shift S. For you it's Control Alt Shift S. You can just select jumping start. You can save. You can tell it to only selected slices, so I'm only saving what I selected. It'll only save out the one slice we selected, right? So that's quick changes for the future. I'll stop there and we'll go back into slices some more. Okay, let's go back and do some more slices. And, well, actually, here's the other, first off, here's the other Photoshop file that I created, and that contains, well, actually, let's go into Photoshop, and let's talk about how these things are all named. We have folders here, so under 9x9 grid, it's actually this one only under 9x9 grid. Obviously 3 times 3 is 9, so all of those guys are under 9x9 grid. This folder, body module 3 column, that's those guys. So you can go into that folder, you can select any given one of them, you can make changes. Same thing with 9x9, here's jump start, right? And actually, let's undo what we did. Let's save it. So now we got jump start. Everything's in that folder. You've got the elephant image, the text. Now, one nice thing about Photoshop lately, if you are on the Move tool, press V for Move. You can right-click on anything, and you'll get what's probably the right layer. Obviously, you know, it gives you a list of everything, but it almost always will select the layer that your mouse is directly up upon. So it's like in this case I actually selected Hadoop recommendations images. But in there we can see that there's something called layer 33 copy 2. Right? Okay, great. So it kind of gets a little annoying. Not everything's named perfectly, but there's a bunch of stuff in there. It's like right here I got the text, right? So I can hit the T key for text, and I can just change that text to whatever I want. Same thing with the training by. I think we had nixed those and removed that text. But it is a good place to put in some sort of extra caption. So let's get out of that, and let's come over here. So here is another example. So this is what I'm making for you so it's easy. We have folders. We have concept images. So here's one concept, right? There's dummy text white, dummy text black. So obviously in an instance like this, we want white text on a black background. But in an instance like this, we want black copy on a white background, right? This is just dummy text. What we're gonna, you've done this, I saw it on your slider that you made. You're gonna go in and actually type in the text. Now, let's go in here. Let's go to the home page. You were asking one thing, which is, you know, this is actually an image up here, I think. Or no, maybe you did that as a text through the CSS. I still have to change the CSS file to help match what we're doing. So in the background here, this is what you were talking about. So obviously that's an image, and in that image is Pictos, web SVG deleted, is that big data. So I just need to go in and resave that. So this time what I did to try and help was I organized these guys up so this Photoshop file is like the one to rule them all. So we have painted road, right? In that, it's on a paper background. Well, it doesn't have to be on a paper background. Look at that. There's another background. There's another background. There's another background, right? All I have to do is turn these off individually. You'll notice that not all of these are perfectly transparent. So like on this really bright green, we can see that drop shadow on these cones. It's just not working. So, you know, don't use that. We can keep it as just a regular, oh, that does have a pattern on it, as a regular white background like it is. Or we could put a slight subtle pattern on it. Notice how that doesn't look wrong with those drop shadows on the cones. So there's a pattern overlay in the effects. You can hold that down and you see your effects. You can turn it off, you can turn it on, you can turn them off one by one. And so the same thing goes with each one of these backgrounds. So under paper background, I actually added a couple of things. So I added a layers adjustment, an adjustment layer for levels, and an adjustment layer for hue saturation. And this actually, let's use a different example. Let's do pillowy background. So in pillowy background, we have an adjustment layer for levels. Click on the little circular thing here, not on the layer itself, and you will pull up the levels dialog box. And you can make all the changes in the world to that background image, and you will never damage the image because you're working on an adjustment layer. You're not actually going into a filter and telling it to change. Another example. Sorry, got to make sure you hit that circle exactly. Let's make this real dark. Everything on the background layers also has a hue saturation layer. All this really is for is so you can change the color of any background with a simple slide. You know, I mean, we can undo that and we can bring it back. The only reason why I darkened it up on the levels is so it was more obvious. Pillow is supposed to be pillowy, not too bright, right? There's some stuff I need to do actually. We'll do it right now. Painted road. I lost about an hour's worth of work because Photoshop was nice enough to crash on me, and this was part of it. So let's just clean up those little guys there. I'm not being destructive on the image. I'm actually creating a mask for these guys. So if I turn on that really bright green background, come on buddy, I can see better and I can try and get in there and I can mask that out. Mask that out. Mask that out. Mask that out. Still not going to work perfectly. I mean, we could just go ahead and take it all off. But the point of this is not to have some ugly, well, it's not ugly, but some really, really bright background image. However, if we go into concepts, this is the painted road concept. What if we use the blackboard concept? No real big problem with that. What if we use the 3D world concept? Look at that. I changed it a little bit. And if you remember, it didn't sit off to the right like that. Well, everything in this Photoshop file, whoops, let's undo that. Those need to be linked. Another thing that didn't get done. Everything that's in this Photoshop, not everything, but I don't think you're going to find anything that isn't, is a vector or some form of smart object. Basically all that means is I can make it really, really small. Let's even make it even smaller. Let's make it like, we're going to transform it way down to the size of a postage stamp. And then I can scale it right back up again. And it doesn't look like crap, right? You could go crazy. I think almost everything is really high res. So if we really went crazy, we would still keep a lot of the detail, right? So like that. It is actually above 100%, I can tell that much. It's getting a little blurry, so we can't go too crazy. But you can still scale back and forth without worrying about destroying the quality of any given image. You can bring it way out here to the right. That's not a good idea, you know. If we go back into our rulers, show guides, you can see the blue guides here. So we'll do this. Basically, that is the image area that sits directly underneath this navigation. So what I had done is I just moved it off a little bit. That's fine. We're only a few pixels off to the outside of the navigation. And when I'm looking at it, I probably have even more room than that, right? I wouldn't really want to do it all the way out there, but I probably could get away with it. So we can easily just go in there and move those things around. And I'm using Command or Control T to go into the Transform tool. That's just nothing more than transforming an image's size. You can do that with text and easily just transform the size of the text. It keeps it as text and it just changes the font size. So that's like working with Photoshop in these images easily. So now that we've done that, let me stop and you can take a break. Okay, so back into the fun world of slices. If you recall, wherever it was, no, it's the third slide, we still had that logo as an image in the background. Well, we could also have these texts as images, and I think in some cases here and there they are actually images. Those are actually text. I think this one is, yeah, so big data here, these are images, I think. Yeah, because here we can select the text, up here we can't. Matter of fact, I can view image. Yeah, see, classes. The reason why it looks like that, the gray is because it's whoops, I closed it. The gray is because that's the definition of transparency. The browser handles that. So let's go in here. Let's go into dummy data and our dummy text. Let's just turn it off. Well, now we have our image and we can put text into it. Do we want to use text as an image? Do we want to take each one of these, separate it out, say like we want, in this case, we want big data to be an image. So we just hold down the Alt key, select right where it says big data in the layers, we click on it, and when we go back and forth, it turns every other layer off and only leaves that layer visible. So then again, we can go back into Save for Web, and we can save it as a PNG, right? Even though it's such a huge PNG file, because it's taking all 2,000 pixels or whatever it is wide, it's still only 8K because it's lossless compression. It understands that all this crap is transparent. It realizes that all we're really doing is saving one little piece here. And so you can do that piece by piece and make each individual piece fly in however you want. However, what you're doing, hi William, what you're doing is slightly different. So what we do have to have, no matter what, is this big background image that's, you know, 2,200 pixels wide, sorry. So we'll go back into Save for Web. In this instance, when we're doing these long background images, if you look at that, that's almost half a megabyte in size as a PNG. Yeah, these long background images have to be JPEGs. And if you just do JPEG medium, that's probably good enough. You can play with the quality settings. I wouldn't go below 20. Like right here at 16, we're starting to get really kind of messed up. But it's only 75K. This is one reason why you never, when you're using the web, want to do Save As and choose JPEG and say, okay, I'll adjust the slider here and I'll make it, you know, medium, like a 5. Look at that, medium here is 108 pixels. When I'm in Save for Web, medium is 76 pixels. So you're really crunching those pixels as much as possible. So we'll go ahead and save this out. And I'm going to put this into, I'll just leave it in that untitled folder for the hell of it. Main slider, that's fine. We'll go back over here. Now we'll get into your slider, right? Where's your slider? Here's your slider, homepage final, good deal. We'll go ahead and edit the slides. Again, duplicating things as we go, so we always keep our original settings. I'll edit this slide by clicking on Edit Slide. Don't actually try and click on the slide image itself. Click on Edit Slide. So if you remember that from previous versions of this little tutorial, this background image is actually here. Change image. The rest are for layers. You can add a layer image, you can add a layer of text, you can add a layer of video. So we'll change that image. Now I didn't upload it, so I'll go to my desktop And you can do batch uploads, by the way. Notice you can drag and drop files. So let's say I wanted to start working on all of these things all at once. I could easily just upload them all at once. Cool, yes. But for this, that's not what we're doing. So here we go, main slider template 2. Let's just name it. Green globe slider background. No, none of the, unless you put it in the alternative text, none of the search engines are going to be actually cataloging this stuff. It's just good for our purposes to make sure we put in descriptions and captions. Caption is, well, it doesn't matter. I don't need to explain it. So we'll just go ahead and insert that into post. So now we got the big green globe. All right, let's see what you think about this when you come next time and see it. I'm going to grab these guys. I'm going to go down a little bit. I'm going to go up a little bit. All right. And what I still haven't yet done, because I've been working on this damn Photoshop file, is making all of these other ones. But in this instance, I think what we want is maybe large white. Oh, whoops. Ah, shit. I think we just went from huge black. No, that's the fun one I made. Huge, bold, black. Yeah. Sorry, I was selecting the wrong one. This would probably want to be medium, bold, white. So we could say medium white. How's that work? Let's see how that works, right? Not bad. But again, that's that CSS file that needs to be edited, and we need to come up. I need you to play with the sliders so I can come up with something that you're happy with, because every time I go in and edit the CSS file, it takes forever. We're talking a couple hundred lines of code. It's not like it's hard, it's just going through it piece by piece. It takes some sweet ass time. So let's just update that. And again, so this is why we have all of these different windows open, right? So here I have my window open where I can just come back, hit refresh, and I can see what we just did. And I know that's the very last slide. It comes in. There we go. See, it sits off to the right a little bit. Not much, just a little. It still shows as what it's supposed to be. It's got the really, really, really green background. We've got our little text change that I made here. It's nice. Yeah. Let's actually go back. These are all touch enabled, by the way, so if you're on a touch device, notice when I select and I move to the left, the slide moves to the left. When I do it to the right, it moves back to the right. Well, we should probably go in there and make that change, because that's just stupid. Let's move that guy up. Actually, let's move this guy down. Let's move this guy over. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so again, back to Photoshop. Let's just finish up with Photoshop. And I wanted to show you this guy. So this is, again, all these Photoshop files. It's just 3 of them. They're your basic templates for you to do so you can handle some of this stuff on the back end. Obviously, Sabuth will get a copy of them. So if you just have to share, you're busy doing something, whatever it is, on vacation, and say, oh, make this change. You can just tell them you have the Photoshop files, remember, in one of those templates you can do this. So Photoshop files and how I have arranged this. I'm going to give this a second, because I'm going to compress this down a bit. It should be about every 24 frames. So you should now have a completely clear view. You should be able to see over where the mouse is. I have a folder called Banners with Classes. Right now it's got the Cassandra banner, right? Now it has the Real World banner. Now it has the Jumpstart banner. I have each one of those, Tech Series banner, Business Series banner, Solution Series banner. They're all here, and they're all laid out so they're always at the same place whenever we go around. This is all about being anal about how you set up your files. But let's say we want to, let's say, what is it? I think it's Cassandra, right? Yeah, the only one in our business series. All right, well, what if we have another business series now, right? So I can go into this template. Again, always keep a backup, save a copy as, name it the day you were messing around with it, that way you know how to go back to it and find it. I take that folder and I create a new folder of it, right? So now I have Cassandra and Cassandra copy. So we're going to now change Cassandra copy into, I don't know, we'll call it something from Google, right? We're just naming our folder. This way we're easily being able to work with stuff. So advanced concepts. So let's actually zoom in here, right? So now we're working on just Cassandra, but I've turned it into something from Google. So let's go get something from Google real quick. Okay, let's just go into Google Images. Okay, actually, let's get the Google Images logo. That's easy enough, right? We'll go ahead and paste that in. It's pasting into my something from Google. Here's a quick tip for you, how I got a lot of those things transparent real quick. So here, let's name our layer. Google, right? Now double click off to the right, not on top of the name, not on top of the square. Click on that layer, double click, and you get the layer style, right? Check that out. Alright, I just made it transparent. What this is first I bring the slider in, so here it is, not transparent. Bring the slider in a little bit, it's pulling out any white pixels. I hold down the Alt key, or the Option key on the Mac, and then I click over here, and this gives me a gradiated edge. So it's not just pure white pixels I'm pulling out. 255 would be pure white in RGB, 254 would be a little more, 250, and it's gradiating and erasing all the pixels up to 225. And that's something you can always just go back in and change. So let's put Google in there. Alright, you can see there's still, right at the edge of that G and at the edge of everything, there's still a little bit of white in there. So let's go a little further in with these sliders. A little further. That's about as good as we're going to get. We'll take that Cassandra logo. We don't need it because we are in a different folder, the something from Google folder. We'll go ahead and I'm right clicking here, Advanced Concepts. I'll hit the T key and change Advanced Concepts to This is Fun. And I wouldn't do this because it's nice to keep everything the same, but you could make This Is Fun a little bit more bold. You could change it from, say, bold condensed to maybe bold oblique. But for the sake of consistency, try not to do that too much. So here we have it. We've just made a whole new business series about how Google Images is fun. So what do? All right, well, first we go ahead and hit Save for Web. Look at that. Again, you see how you can select the different slices? One grays out. All right, well, let's select our Business is Fun. This is all set up to be exactly the size for every other single page. Every single element is, for these page headers here, is exactly this size. So I go ahead, I've already set it up, it knows to send it out as a PNG. It only comes out to about 63K, which is a little heavy, but not too bad, considering it's a one-time download. So we hit Save. Alright, again, here's the tricky part. Unless you want to save every single slice in here, you need to make sure under Save Optimized As, you save only the selected slice. Okay? So course headers, again, name it. This is how we're going to be able to find it once we upload it into WordPress. And if we start doing massive uploads in there, it's really going to start, well, it's going to start getting really freaking hard to figure out what's what. Simply because WordPress 3.5 is pretty new and there aren't any good plugins yet. It's only been about 3 months. No one's really upgraded anything. So only the selected slices. Boom. There you go. And let's go ruin one of our sliders. We'll just go back into the Revolution Slider. This is why, again, why we have so many tabs open, so I don't have to wait for this thing to go back and forth and back and forth. So we can go in and get... So here's Apache, Hive Hadoop, Hive Apache. Okay, so it duplicates itself because this is the short term, and then this is the actual name of the slider. Don't change that. I'll show you why in 1 second. It's got to be that way. Basically because the slider alias is what the rev slider is actually going to link to. If you change it here, it'll change it down here, so it's not that big of a deal. But if we are going to start using sliders within pages, it would be nice to understand, okay, so I know it's a rev slider. What is it about? Is it about Apache Hadoop, or is it about the home page? What is this about? Not that big of a deal, but just keep the slider alias the same as the slider title. So we could go in there and we can edit the slide. Again, edit the slide. And I can change this, I can change that image to what we just made. I thought we saved it here. Oh, courses head Google, right there it is. I'm not going to do this because I think the last thing we want to do is start messing around with the media library like that. But all I would have to do is hit open and insert into post. Let's kill that. And instead of Apache Hive and Pig, oh, it does say dummy copy. Shit. Okay. It's not supposed to.
Are you making a video?
Alright, I'll have to change all those out. Although it is a good idea, here's some homework for you. What do you want the dummy copy to be? And we'll fix that.